Learning to count your stitches and rows is a valuable skill to help keep track of where you are in a pattern. Garter stitches work by knitting every row if you're working on straight needles, and alternating knit and purl rows if you're working in the round. This creates a clear ridge in the fabric every 2 rows. The best way to count rows is to count the ridges in multiples of 2. This sample has 5 ridges, so consists of 10 rows of garter stitch, and we're about to start row 11. Just remember the loops on the needles don't count as a row. Garter stitch is a reversible fabric, so looks the same from both sides of the work. When following a pattern, it'll help to attach a marker to the true right side so you know where you are. Individual stitches are made up of loops that look like N and U shapes. To count them, work across the row horizontally, counting either the N or the U-shaped loops. This sample is 17 stitches across. Of course, if you're working on a project, you can simply count the live stitches on your needles. Stocking stitch is worked by alternating knit and purl rows if you're working on straight needles, and knitting every row if you're working in the round. This creates a smooth fabric of V-stitches on the right side, and purl bumps on the wrong side of the work. Each horizontal row of V-stitches corresponds to a row of knitting. To count your rows, count the number of vertical V-stitches, remembering not to include the loops on the needle. This sample is made up of 10 rows of stocking stitch. Stitches are counted in the same way, work horizontally across the fabric, counting the number of V's. Be careful when counting the very first and last stitches of the piece, as they may look a little distorted. Again, if you're working on a project, you can simply count the live stitches on your needles. If you're working on a large piece of knitting, attach removable markers at 10 or 20 row intervals. It'll be much easier to count which row you're on. Likewise, when casting on a large number of stitches, place markers on the needles at 20 or even 50 stitch intervals to keep track of where you are.